Hello and welcome to the first Elite Prospects 2023 NHL Draft Ranking meeting. We'll be ranking prospects number 1 through 32. And of course, we start with Connor Bedard. You might have heard of him. Maybe Adam Fantilli enters the discussion, but to figure that out, we'll start with Director of Film Scouting Cam Robinson, who recently wrote an article that was talking about Connor Bedard versus Adam Fantilli and if that even should be a thing at all.
Yeah, I was on the Adam Fantilli side of that article with you, Mitch, there, but no, it should not be a thing. Bedard is just such a complete offensive player at this point. You know, the best offensive player we've had an opportunity to scout here at EP Ringside. I think the best since McDavid. Sure, he's not the biggest player. He can get a little crazy out there with the hands in junior, but who cares? We like to see that creativity, and I don't even care if he gives it away, coughs it up at the top of the umbrella as the last man back. He can do it all. We can sit here and talk about the release and how all world it is at this moment. I've been saying it for a while. Like, is there anyone who can drag and release it like him? Austin Matthews when he's on his game, yeah. Not too many others. Yeah, and if we want to talk about Fantilli, obviously he's, I think, the clear number 2 at this point, with the size, the two-way game, the speed, the hands, the shot. He's also a very advanced player, obviously one of the best NCAA players as a freshman. We don't see that too often. It's fun, the top 2 teams are going to get first overall quality with their picks. So I think the conversation really starts at 3.
I also agree with Cam. I have Bedard ahead of Fantilli right now. I think there's still a discussion to be had still, because Fantilli might have a better impact than Bedard, at least at first in the NHL on the boards and defensively. Like, I really appreciated his defensive game, or at least his defensive effort in the NCAA. And he's a power forward, so I'm sure that many NHL teams will really like him, and maybe a couple of them will have him ahead of Bedard. Because he's like a power forward, but you add the playmaking abilities on top, which is pretty rare. Usually power forwards just rush the net. They have the speed and they have the handling skills, and they're very good at driving past defenders and inside defenders. But he can also make plays around them and through them, and he's very deceptive, he's manipulative. So he does the same thing as Bedard, but not at the same level. I just think Bedard's offensive game is so advanced that even if Fantilli has some things over him right now, the offensive game Bedard is so advanced that it doesn't matter. He remains the first overall pick for me.
So what might be the most, what might be a more interesting discussion then is who is number 3? Is it Matvei Michkov, Leo Carlsson, someone else?
We can debate Michkov in this spot, but I think Carlsson just surpassed him because, again, he does a bit of the same thing as Michkov, except maybe the shot in the off game. But he has the NHL frame too, and he had some awesome games recently, like where he just dominated the whole ice. Maybe Lassi can talk a bit about this, but
I think Michkov and Carlsson are pretty close right now still, but Carlsson really has all the tools to become a top line player in the NHL. I don't know if he's a winger or a center because we really haven't seen him down the middle lately, but I think he could end up as a center. He has all the tools to do that. So the skating is the only thing that is holding him back a bit from really challenging for second overall. I think he does really have everything else. So
that skating too, it's obviously like a really wide base, but it doesn't seem to hinder him at the SHL level. Like, he still has good speed. I guess laterally, the lateral agility is where it really comes into play. But I think he can work with that. He's so strong, and he has that wide base, so he's so hard to get the puck off of too. And then you mix in those hands that he has. Yeah, I agree. I have Carlsson there at 3, Michkov at 4. I think if we're looking at like a pure upside skill for that one dynamic quality that Michkov has, then you can give him that edge there. But if you're looking at the whole picture, Carlsson with the size, the positional, like Lassi said, though, he's not getting a lot of reps down the middle right now, as you will as a 17-year-old playing in the SHL. I think whoever drafts him will fully have him as, we want him to be a center for us.
All right, let's throw to our Russian scout, Dylan Griffing, to hear from him about Michkov and what hasn't gone according to plan this season.
Yeah, so it kind of started last season where I was kind of already questioning that, like, where he would really be on this list. And then even the start this year when he was in the VHL, he's a very junior player. It's not a very professional game that he has, but slowly he's kind of really started to lean into utilizing his teammates more. He's not as individualistic. It's been his playmaking qualities that have really stood out, which like I feel like he's more perceived as like this finisher because he has, a great shot, but it's been the playmaking that's really stood out. He's, using teammates and then also moving into areas where he can shoot. He's creating a ton of chances. He's become a weirdly good forechecker at the VHL level, which is not expected. He just kind of sneaks in everywhere, reads plays pretty well in that aspect. And then you look at his defensive game, and that's where it's kind of like starts to trail off. He leaves the zone very, very quickly. He just waits for his team to get the puck for him, and then he waits at the red line for however long he feels like it. So there's a lot of qualities that he definitely gained from playing in the MHL that he still has to work on getting out of his game. Holding onto the puck for too long. There's not a lot of standout stick handling ability that I've seen. He oftentimes look like he's just barely clinging onto possession. The skating it's average. He's really good at changing pace and like seeing pockets to skate into and then accelerating when he's accelerating. He is pretty quick, but outside of that, it's pretty low pace. And then there's just some issues kind of reading what's going on around him, like especially through transition. I've seen him have a wide open lane if he just sticks to where he is, and he'll cut across the ice and end up like behind his teammate, just clogging up one side of the ice instead of being in a spot where he could, use his shot, use a one-timer. And instead he's just not really getting like the right ideas. Maybe it's a system thing. His team, especially when he's not playing, I think they've won like one game when he wasn't playing out of all of them. So there's a lot to like. There's a lot that is questionable, but I think he's pretty solidly in that number 4 spot for me.
All right. Any objections to putting him at number 4? Okay. So now we finish off the top 5 with what looks to be wide open. We'll start, I guess, with David. Do you have any suggestions for the number 5 spot?
I have one. I don't think others will agree with me because I'm the biggest fan of this player, I think, in our team. It's Dvorsky. I think Jimmy put him as a top 10 player. Of course, like he's not as exciting as other players we will have in this top 10, but it's just that he has 2 things. He has amazing tools. He's maybe not the fastest, but he has one of the best skating posture in the draft, and his hands are pretty advanced too. And he has all of these pro habits. Like he plays system hockey super well. He's very attentive to details. He rotates all over the ice in the right spots. He's very aware. He can move pucks off the boards, and he has all of those rush mechanics too. He uses crossovers, weight shift fakes. He can go through a neutral zone, and it's really all of those strong habits on top of his tools. And I think what is maybe not advanced hockey sense, but still above average. So he has like the NHL package. So for me, it's very easy to project him to the top league. Of course, he might not be as exciting as a Will Smith or Oliver Moore or other players we will discuss shortly, but he's just an easy projection. And I think he has a lot of upside because of those tools, because right now he's playing a pro game. And I think he has more offense in this game that he hasn't showed, that maybe if he builds on those tools, that very strong foundation, then we can see him like start making more top 6 caliber plays if you want. So he's my guy for number 5. I think it's open for discussion though.
All right, I'll add another name to that hat. So we mentioned Will Smith, who I think definitely should be in that conversation, but Zach Benson as well. And we all know that I love the brains, and that kid's got a real good head on his shoulders. He makes plays, he sees plays develop ahead of him. He's not the biggest player, but again, he's hard to get off the puck, and he can get into lanes and disrupt things. Just a highly cerebral guy. Kind of reminds me a little bit, not exact, but a Cole Perfetti style, where they're just so smart out there, and you can play the middle of the ice. I really like Zach Benson. Again, one of these guys that you can maybe safely think that he's like going to be a number 2 center, a top 6 guy, maybe not an elite top line player, but his mind's going to allow him to play in all sorts of different situations and be relied upon. And I think just one of these guys that should, as long as physically he can handle it, should transition fairly seamlessly into the pros.
All right, I have a name to throw in here. Andrew Cristall, Kelowna Rockets. He's scoring like 2 points per game, like crazy. Just every game he's putting on a show, human highlight reel type stuff. He makes simple plays look crazy. Like he'll just make a pass to the point, but to get there, he'll kick the puck off his own skate, back to his stick and then go backhand saucer for it. But a lot of it serves a real functional purpose. Like, he's the type of player who wants to create something with every single touch. He wants to create an advantage. He wants to create a scoring chance. And as we've seen throughout this season, he's gotten a lot more precise. He's gotten a lot better at working off his teammates, playing and using those skills in more of an NHL style. He's very, very, very dynamic. Might be the most dynamic player in the draft after the top players.
I agree with that. Like, for the points that he just creates off of every touch, and he can link skills together and tools together. Like I watched him live, like nutmeg a defender and then just fake a shot, get the goalie to open up, score. Like, is just kind of just ridiculous performances all year.
The feet, though, right? That's the only thing that's really a bit of a concern. Yeah, I think Benson's maybe the smarter player. Cristall is definitely the more skilled offensive player. Both have the question marks with their feet.
Benson's forechecking is ridiculous. Like I almost can't believe it when I watch him. Like, how good of a forechecker he is, and that'll just like I believe it'll translate up. But holy, like, it's nuts. Like.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys feel my main issue with Cristall is rushes? I feel like he's more of a straight line player. Is that right, or am I just catching games where he's not using like crossovers or really manipulating as much of the rush?
Yeah, I don't see that as much of an issue personally. There are definitely, like, he has games where he's a junior player, and then he has games where he's an NHL player. And the junior games are when he looks like he did last year, where he's sort of just a straight line guy who's kind of blindly throwing pucks into areas, waist high kind of stuff, hoping that his teammates can knock it down. And then the majority of his games, or at least the ones that I've seen, have been more where he's attacking at angles, trying to manipulate feet, changing pace, bringing the puck to the middle, and playing a lot more precise style of hockey. But I mean, this is going to be the big question with him, right? Is which one is the Cristall that is going to be in the NHL?
Well, last season, like, instead of like manipulating with weight shifts, he would just pop like heel to heel to try to like work laterally against defenders, and you saw it a little bit at the beginning of the season, just overuse, but it's kind of gone away. I feel. I don't know if that's actually true, but
definitely part of it is that, like, he was very good at putting himself in favorable or advantageous situations last year. Like, he'd get to the middle, but he wouldn't necessarily have a play. And then now he's getting to the middle and he already knows the next play, at least in the majority of games.
I feel like Cristall is a better skater than Smith, too, just in terms of posture and quickness. Like, I think there's no debate here. I like Benson the most out of those three, honestly, just because of the complete game. I think away from the puck, both offensively and defensively, he's better than those two, just like at finding space, cutting down space. He's better on the boards. His puck protection is like improving rapidly, I feel. And he's not as manipulative, he's not as great as a playmaker as those two, but it's not all that far either. Like, on the power play, he can do those same things. So I feel like it should be Benson ahead of those two. And if anyone else likes Dvorsky, we can add him somewhere in there too.
Let's get a name down on number 5. Does anyone else have any other contenders or an argument to make?
I would say
Cristall at 5.
Cristall at 5. We have 2 votes for Benson, at least, over Cristall. 2 votes for the opposite. Here we are.
I like Cristall over Benson, but it's really close for me.
And I personally have Sale over Dvorsky. I kind of follow this as a battle like we did last year with Jiříček versus Nemec. And now we are comparing 2 forwards. They are both different type of forwards, right? We got Dvorsky, who is very responsible two-way center, who's really good at disrupting passing lanes. He's very active in all 3 zones. I like the way he reads the game. He's very active. He's very smart. He's very supportive. He's also like constant on the forecheck. He's also solid on in the face of circle. He's really hard to knock off the, he's really hard on his stick with the puck. He can dig the players. He doesn't have a problem with it. But on the other hand, we got Sale, who's a really good skater. He's already above average skater in the Extraliga. You can see the difference when, he's the best skater on the ice. He has really smooth hands. The way he controls the puck, like the first touch is amazing. He can control the bouncing puck really quickly. He's a really good playmaker. So the tools I like more with Sale puts him above Dvorsky at this time of the season. So I would like to see Sale above him right now.
Like he can kill you with that effort level. He's got so much skill, but he just like it hurts me on the inside when I see him out there sometimes.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Like Sale is already waiting in the defensive zone to start the rush. Like he's really offensive minded. Like it's incredible. He really doesn't care about defense, and Dvorsky does. So this is the difference between them. But I like the upside of Sale. It's just like incredible. Like he can be so dangerous. He's like a shark, he's waiting for the right moment. And this is the reason why I have him above at this time of the season.
I like Dvorsky better, but I think he's more of a top 15 guy, even than a top 10 or top 5. So, and Sale I would have like maybe in the 20s or something, because the most recent viewings in Extra League have been a few flashes per game, but the output is just, it's not good. And Dvorsky, I don't really see the upside with picking him in the top 5 or maybe even top 10. So yeah, I think we should go with someone else in that spot. But if we have quite a few Dvorsky fans here, so I don't mind having him in the top 10, but in the latter half.
All right, so let's go with the two WHLers. So in the next two spots, it seems to be kind of the consensus right now. We can open the discussion or try to place Dvorsky here. So we have Cristall at 5, Benson at 6, and then 7 we're back open again. So any other players that should be in this territory over Dvorsky?
I think the room is really split on Dvorsky, so it should probably be Smith, unless there is someone who doesn't like him. I feel he's a good player for this spot. He's just as Smith's only thing is his playmaking, but it's so damn good that it doesn't really matter. Like he has skating issues. It's probably a below average stride right now. It's very wide and he can't really shift his weight all that well, but it doesn't really matter because he's so instinctually deceptive and manipulative. Like every time he receives a puck, like he's instantly into a feint. Like every move is complemented by a feint. And I think in the NHL, he's still going to be able to create space for himself because he's going to be so deceptive that it's going to make defenders hesitate, and he's going to cut alongside the ice and create space for teammates. He's really going to control the game. So it won't matter too much, the skating, but it's still a concern. So I think like the latter half of the top 10 is probably his spot.
All right. And how does he compare to Jayden Perron, who Joey has? I think they're neck and neck right now for him.
I really like Perron too. Perron. It's just that one is like he's still 5'8" and he's a better skater, but Smith is 6 foot. So to really thrive in the NHL at 5'8", I'd like for him to be like a slightly better skater, even like really above average. And so there wouldn't be any doubt about his translatability. His ability to translate to the NHL. Perron can really do everything on the ice. He's a manipulative playmaker. He can score. He can play the off-ball game. So he's really good at timing himself in pockets of space. He's even good at picking up pucks off the boards and escaping defenders. So yes, he's 5'8", but his game is really complete too. And I think he belongs somewhere in the top 12. I'm not sure I'm ready to put him in the top 10 just yet. I'd have other players like Oliver Moore or Simashev ahead of him right now.
Perron is so good defensively too, which is really impressive. Like he just knows where to be on the ice in all three zones. But like you said, it is really difficult to project a 5'8" guy who isn't a burner and who's also fairly slight. Like, so maybe him being slight opens up the opportunity that there's more growth to come versus like, someone who's already built, 5'8", but they're 180 pounds, like Ty Nelson last year, that it's not getting any bigger. But with Will Smith, he's 6 foot and he's also slight. So you can definitely imagine he's going to fill out, and that's probably going to help the stride as he builds the lower half. I do think that Perron is a smarter, complete player, whereas Smith, like you said, the playmaking ability, the vision to be able to hit those pockets and hit those seams, and I do think that he has some shift to his game too, some lateral quickness, despite not having the greatest stride mechanics or posture out there, allowing him to do those things. I don't think it's bad. I think it's a 5. It's not terrible. Yeah, it's a tough one. I have a hard time putting a 5'8" kid who's not a burner though in the top 10. Just because realistically, even if it does all translate for him, it's probably going to take some time. You're probably going to have a really long wait on him becoming an impact player, because he just doesn't have that one standout quality like a Cole Caulfield does, where you can't project him to be a 50 goal guy. So it is difficult to put him, but I like him. I like him a lot too.
I have Perron at 7. Actually, but most of my viewings are from last year. But when I was watching him last season, I was like, this is probably the smartest player in this draft class. I don't know if that's still true, but I was just a really big fan of him. Like you said, the defense is really, like, it was unexpected from him. And then you throw in that playmaking ability, pretty good hands. I mean, I was really impressed with him, but yeah, he is small, but so is Michkov.
One dynamic quality though. You gotta have that. I think when you're that size.
I'm not saying they're like close, but
yeah, for sure.
All right. So are we okay with Will Smith at 7th and then Dvorsky at 8th?
Except for Marek, yeah.
Yes, unfortunately, as someone always has to lose, and unfortunately, Marek is the victim on like back-to-back rankings.
Oh, we're gonna have to discuss Sale again a bit later. I think, like maybe not way too much, but he has a lot of issues. We all appreciate the tools. I think it's the same thing for William Whitelaw. Like they're very similar players for me.
Are we cool with Smith at 7?
Standing Palika?
It's a bit too early.
No, too early.
Come on. Upside, baby. Upside. All right, fine. I'll push him around 12. Hey, how about that?
That could work. I like Simashev more.
Yes,
a bit.
Yes,
a tiny bit.
Yeah, I think Simashev, Standing Palika, Gulyayev, and Cagnoni are all like one after another on my list right now.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, so defensemen. So those were the names that were brought up. Shall we talk defensemen in this draft?
I want to talk about Oliver Moore first. Like, I'm not sure if I'm too high on him, but like, he doesn't show as much as Smith, but he doesn't have the same line around him, I think, in the USNTDP. He's a burner. We've been talking about like not poor skaters, but average skaters, and Moore is one of the best skaters in the draft. He's so fast, and he knows how to use his speed to like move around defenders, cut back, separate from them, and he's not as good as a playmaker, but it's pretty advanced in his game too. That manipulating opponents, and he can downshift too. He's not like one of those skaters that just burn up ice and they have one speed. He can change speed, cut laterally, and he uses his teammates when they're there. And he has some off puck abilities too. He's really good on a forecheck. Like, he has a lot of things, I think. Does anyone
Great
else
crossover
like
mechanics.
Yeah. I'm also
he has
a big
that
fan.
same. He has that same USNDDB stride, where like he strides very wide, but he has insane crossover, so he lacks balance a bit. I still don't understand it, but like, he's really good with it.
Constant state of acceleration. That's what it's all about. There is no limit on human being speed if you just have a wide stride. Anyway, I like Moore here as well. He's a bit like Gavin Brindley, except the mechanics are better in the sense that he's not necessarily generating high value offense consistently, but he puts himself in favorable positions. He moves through every pass reception. He's very responsible with the puck. And on top of that, Moore does have a lot of deception to his game to open up lanes and stuff like that. And his movement, because he plays the pace that he does, because he's always on his edges, shifting back and forth, turning, establishing body positioning or whatever, it is inherently deceptive. So I think Moore is a great candidate here. I mean, he's pretty much a slam dunk middle six guy, and there's a real chance that with an added aggressiveness to his game that he could end up at the top end of that.
Yeah, a younger, faster, kind of more toolsy Brindley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Moore at 9.
Simashev. Dylan, does he still have just 1 point over the season? Oh my god!
That's the elephant in the room, is that he has 1 point. But
yeah,
it like really has to be said that he should have way more. Like,
yeah,
they won like I think 2 days ago 10-0. and he didn't have a point. So it's like I think he's destined to finish with 1 point this year. But I mean, watching his most recent MHL games, he is actually creating offense, and he's doing it really well. But it is mostly the defense that like really got him onto the radar, playing in the KHL to start the year on a really strong team, and they were giving him, decent minutes for a young player. Like 6 minutes a game is, more than Danilo Yurov got for most of last season. And he has kind of went out there every game, did his job, played defense, cleared the zone, didn't really do anything with the puck. And that was kind of limiting how much I liked him, because there was kind of no reference to what he could actually do with the puck, because it was all just very quick passes. Maybe he'd hold on to it for a couple seconds, but there wasn't really a lot. He was connecting on a lot of plays, but it was just very, very basic. But there's a lot to like with even that. Just a player who can get the puck, move it, and call it a day. And now him in the MHL, he's doing solo rushes. He's showcasing his hands. He's a really good skater, especially for his size. He's creative. There's still times when he looks just very uncomfortable on the puck. Like he'll try a move and then he'll instantly regret it and just make a stupid mistake after that. But I think the base for what this player could be is really good. I think he has the highest upside for any defenseman in this draft, even with the potentially limited offense. There's still, the defensive game is amazing. He's becoming more physical. I know Mitch asked about that, but the last game that I watched, he absolutely crushed a guy on the board. So maybe the nickname that you came up for him, Sima Smash, whatever it was, that could be a thing. He's also gotten injured twice this year, which sucks. He missed out on playing with the U18 team, where he could have beaten up on Kazakhstan and gotten some points there. Maybe get some confidence there. But I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah, he's just a hard sell. Like you look at his stat sheets, and he played 14 games and he has 1 point in the MHL. It's crazy because he looks like an AHLer. Like few guys like at 6'4" skates like him. His posture is not perfect, but close to. Like he has insane tools and he controls the puck very well. And you're right. Like he does make those playmaking moments at the blue line, and you can feel like he's about to score, but just lacks that bit of finishing, or his teammates do. And it's pretty funny, but I still think he belongs around that spot, even if he has just 1 point on the season. And that should tell you something. Like he's just a future, maybe top 4 NHL guy if he puts it all together. And it should be easier for him because he has above average size, above average skating, handling. He's very physical. Like he can defend well already. He has everything apart from the scoring.
All right. Simashev at 10th. Any objections?
Do we want?
I haven't seen him enough to do
Perron?
Perron. Yeah.
I'm fine with
I
either.
do have Perron ahead of him.
Are we going to do top 10 Perron?
Yeah, and Marek like Chalet too.
I think it's very early for him.
Yeah. Well, upside wise, I think it's fine. It's one of those home run type of swings. I wouldn't be shocked to see him go at 10. I also wouldn't be shocked to see him go at like 31. So
the issue you talk about is effort, but his game is mostly like take the puck near the blue line, skate it to the offensive zone and shoot it on net. Like that's mostly his game, and that's not very translatable to the NHL. Like he has so many bad habits. I appreciate the tools, and I usually project based on tools a lot. I think maybe you could put him in the top 15, but it just feels a bit early for the game he's showing right now. Like if he starts playing just slightly better the defense, and if he's better away from the puck, he uses his teammates a bit more in the later half of the season, we could put him at like 5, and I'd be fine with it. It's just that I don't know.
It's just like, Shell's team, they are just struggling right now. They were really good at the beginning of the season, and they are having some crisis or something like that at the moment. And you can see, like, when Shell is playing at the international level, he really stands out there. He's playing at really, good level. And I don't know what's happening with him right now. There's definitely some downfall with him. But I think this is like, relative to the team. They are not like in some good shape right now. So this is probably the reason. We will see at the World Juniors right now if he's at the same pace like he was at the under 18 tournament. But yeah.
That's a really good point. If like the context of his team is really bad and he feels like he has to do everything to score, maybe that's why he's not playing like the type of game that we want. Maybe you could do like Perron, Simashev, and then maybe Sale, or discuss him in this group, this next group of player at least.
Yeah. All right. So Perron 10, Simashev 11, and then Sale, Gulyayev, Sandin Pellikka,
Barlow. This is a wide open group now.
Raiden Jaeger. Oh, we can't forget about him too much.
Yeah, he's around.
Quentin Musty. Sorry, Lauren.
Yeah, him too.
Tools.
So already we're only at 12.
No. Yeah.
It's maybe a bit early.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Sandin Pellikka there. Like the shiftiness, the elusiveness, the intelligence to make it happen from a standstill with speed, like activations galore. My goodness, the kid, he like loves to jump into the play either as like the fourth trailer or like lead the rush. I put that clip on the Slack there the other day with, he makes a great defensive play against the rush in overtime, makes the pass and gets going, gets the pass back and has a high danger scoring chance. Like he's all over the ice, really great footwork mirroring defensively. Not the biggest player, but a great distributor too. Like I think he plays a really intelligent game. I didn't see too many glaring mistakes in his game playing at the SHL level, getting minutes. I said it there, he reminds me a little bit of Quinn Hughes with the elusiveness. Like if he can figure that out on retrievals the way Hughes can and get back there and shake and bake everybody, then look out, because like right now, he does have a little bit of problems, scanning over his shoulder and getting pinned in. But otherwise, when he has the play in front of him and he's going downhill, like look out, or at the top of the umbrella too. So really interesting player. I think there's some real upside there. I know, David, you mentioned that you're a little concerned with how he plays on the smaller ice. And I think that will obviously, the less ice he has to maneuver with, to shake, is going to impact him. But that's something he can probably sort out with those quick edges and that lateral ability too.
Yeah, I was at the same point you are right now with Sandin. Like earlier this season, I thought he was a top 10 pick. It's really the retrievals. You mentioned it, and I watched him in the Five Nations, and he struggled there a bit more because he had less space to make his plays. Like I think he has all of the tools necessary to become a good NHLer, and he has the hockey sense too. It's just like the decisions under pressure when he has less time and he really has to create a play. I'm not quite there yet, but he could be in the top 15, I think.
How about like how much better he looks than he did at the Holinka too? Like the strides he's taken in that time is like, I like that when a player can take big strides in a draft year and really improve on their game. Like that is something that you want to see. I want to see that arc trending upwards.
Yeah, he looks better in the SHL than everywhere else. So I don't know what's up with this. Maybe with professionals when it's more predictable for him, or maybe when he has more space to make plays, but at the same time, he has to defend better players. So I don't know.
Lassi, as our director of European scouting, you get to decide how we order this Sandin Pellikka, Gulyayev, and Sale tier that we've been working on.
That's a difficult. Sale definitely last out of those three, but Sandin Pellikka and Gulyayev, that's a tougher conversation to be had.
I think Sandin Pellikka is better just because Gulyayev's a terrible defender right now. He just can't.
Yeah,
sure.
Like he's quite good off the rush, but like in zone, it's another story.
He's like so like hyper aggressive just to do, like he gets up, like he'll jump up way too high, and then even when he like gets into the right spot, he can't like do anything because he's not big. He's not a very good checker. I think they're pretty similar. I think Sandin Pellikka is a bit smarter, and then just the defensive game is. I think there's a pretty big gap between them.
Yeah, I'm fine with having Sandin Pellikka ahead of Gulyayev. 12 is maybe a bit high, but I could see him working himself up there anyway in a month or two. So it's really about if we want to do it now or wait a bit and see. But if we don't have anyone else here, so then it's fine.
Mitch, what do you think of Leonard and Jaeger and Daniel too?
So I like Jaeger more than I like Leonard. I think the upside's higher. I like Leonard's game a lot. You know, the power shooter type player who, He's NHL shooter, lots of physical skills. He can skate at a good enough level to play in the NHL. I don't see a ton of creativity. I think he's a third liner in the NHL, but he has a lot of upward mobility because of the way that he plays. Whereas Yager, it's not always exciting or especially flashy, but we've seen some playmaking growth from him, which I think he's now achieved the threshold where he can be a sniper in the NHL. He's a good enough passer that he can play off puck, get it back, score. He's very good at getting open, not necessarily around the net, but getting open above the play. So reloads high in the offensive zone, gets ahead of steam into the slot, then wires that shot off his outside leg or inside leg. So Yager, probably a mid-6 guy. Going to score some cool goals. He's not too unlike Dylan Gunther from the 2021 draft.
We have a lot of names.
Yeah. I mean, we can put Yager at 12th, I guess, or 13th.
Just for now, and if he continues to not improve as fast, maybe we can slide him down.
All right, 12th or 13th, over Sandin Pellikka or Gulyayev.
Under. We have a lot of support for Sandin.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I can hear an argument for Colby Barlow over him too. Like I'm cool with
Musty
that.
is the first
Musty over him. Decided. Yeah.
I think Yager should be after Gulyayev. That's all.
And like Daniel, what about Riley Height too? Like you see PG like every 30 minutes you're in their barn. So
Well, I don't think there's gonna I really like Riley Height. I think that the complaints about him being like a power play guy are true. Like it definitely was a thing for the last 60, 70 games. But he's starting to activate his tools and he's way more dominant now 5-on-5. He just does things like his puck protection's pretty elite, especially for his size. Underrated shot that he doesn't really get to use very much. Really gifted playmaker. I really like Riley Heights. I there's skating concerns, but I think he links his tools together and manipulations quite well to just get free entries. I don't know if he's this high, but I definitely think he's a first rounder.
Oh yeah, definitely a first rounder, and he's got that nastiness to his game too. That just he has the skill,
mean.
right?
So
he's mean. I like a mean skill player.
In the playoffs last year, he kneed Cagnoni so hard, it was so bad, but they were going at it the entire series. PG got sweeps, but he's a competitor really. And he's crafty. He does some wild things sometimes, these just crazy redirects from the circles. I've just never seen that type of stuff before. But yeah, definitely in this range around here. I also like Cagnoni quite a bit. I think he's so elusive and not elusive. I think he's just such a gifted skater and passer and everything. So.
And Lauren, how about Barlow too?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to contradict what Mitch and David want, but I like Barlow over Musty. So I would rather bet on the guy who, makes the smart decisions, is a really well-rounded, mature player, works well both ends of the ice. He's really turned it on offensively as of late. He's dominant on shifts. Whereas Musty, I have a lot of question marks about his off-puck decisions. He struggles to puck handle under pressure. He little effort on back checks, questionable passing decisions sometimes. I think there are just a lot more question marks with Musty than Barlow. I feel like Barlow would be the safer choice, at least this high, but I'll defer to Mitch and David, who clearly like Musty a lot more than I do.
I'm cool with Barlow over Musty.
Me too. I just think, I always say this, but I don't think decision making really necessarily matters for players who have those kinds of tools because they are always experimenting. But he does play a bit selfishly. There could be better decisions for him to make on the ice necessarily. But I think he's a first rounder. He's probably a top 20 guy for me. The only strong support we have had so far for a player is Shally from Marek. So I think we should maybe honor that.
Yeah, he's on at 15 already.
Oh, okay. All right,
yeah, he's been at 15 this entire. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Then
Barlow. Then let's put Barlow down. I mean, he's going to play in the NHL.
Do we prefer the WHL defenseman?
I think Musty
Leonard.
and then Cagnoni.
That's my order too.
All right, let's put that
I have
down.
I have Leonard ahead of Musty though. I'm not sure if that's correct for you.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. It's the Colby Barlow projection again.
Yeah, he has the physicality, the shot. He can make plays too. He's a bit of everything, and I like the physical game mostly. He stands out in this US TDP team because he's always cutting inside the hands of players to get to the net and all of this. And I think Russ really likes him too.
I'd push for height here. I'd like him in the team, so I'd love to see him at night. Oh, do we already got 19, 20 then? I think he's going to be a player. I think he just screams energy line guy at the very least too, who can really affect a second power play unit too, and maybe be a PK or two. Like he's just that hard nosed energy guy too, who has skill.
His defensive game's gotten a lot better since last year. Like he was lost in his own zone, but now he's like he's a participant in the back check. You know, he's really good below his goal line, sealing off plays and helping out breakouts. So good upward progression, I guess, is the biggest thing. Like a lot of the things that I had a lot of issues with is just kind of going away a bit. So
should talk about Ritchie.
Yeah, anything
Lauren.
for Ethan Gauthier or Calum Ritchie?
Yeah, I watched a lot of Gauthier recently, and I'm not sure anymore. Like, I like he has a bit of everything. He's the same projection as Barlow and Leonard, too, but the tools aren't as good necessarily. Maybe he's a better skater than Barlow. Barlow has the shot over him. It's just that nothing he does really stands out. He's just like a connector on his line, and he doesn't get a lot of puck touches because he plays with Joshua Roy and Gill. I forgot his first name.
Justin Gill.
Yeah, thank you. So he's stuck being the connector. He just one touches pucks to his teammates. So it's hard to really evaluate his skill level. I watched him at the Rinkla, and he had the puck more, but the skills isn't high end. So he's more of a third line projection, someone who's going to play good defense, going to forecheck, go to the net, and make short passes to teammates. So he's probably a first rounder, but this could be a spot like in the 20s.
what do you think of Hanzek?
I like him.
He is another Barlow. Everyone is a Colby Barlow projection.
I got more viewings. He's really good.
Yeah, I like Hanzek more than Gauthier.
Yeah, we can put him at 21. I have a lot of conviction for him. I mean, I think he's probably a mid-6 kind of secondary guy, but I mean, his edge is in tight, very strong. He can overwhelm guys physically. He takes the puck straight to the net. And on top of that, you continue to see more and more skill from him, particularly in motion stuff. So
he's hulking out there. Like he's enormous. Yeah. And like the low pace is kind of scary at first, but his brain just overcomes everything. I feel like he's really smart. Like,
and to transition to the dub like that and just produce the way he has, really impressive.
Yeah, on a Vancouver team that is like pretty limited in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So Calum Ritchie time?
Yeah. I think this is right around there.
I guess so. I mean, the thing with Ritchie is just like there's so much skill and he just chooses not to use it sometimes. Like he's so focused on playing that smart, kind of reliable game, making the right decisions as opposed to maybe the best offensive play. He doesn't like to use the middle of the ice all that much. When he gets to the middle of the ice, he's, always a threat to score, but it's a matter of, making that decision to get there as opposed to maybe sliding back to cover one of his defensemen. He's also not producing a lot for a player who is that skilled and has, high tools, high hockey sense. So that would be a little bit of my concern, but I mean, this is probably the right spot to put him. So I'm okay with where he is.
I feel like he's a player who is either going to go up from here or down. This isn't going to be his final spot at all. Either we believe that he can overcome his, passivity with the puck, or we don't. But for now, I think this is kind of a good middle ground.
Yeah, like he reminds me like last year of Hunter Haight, where it's like that super high-end skill, just a matter of like when he chooses to use it. And then the skating is also a problem for, obviously a player his height. The lack of acceleration, I think, is lending itself to issues with his pace. So that's something to keep an eye on.
All right. And Ethan Gauthier at 23, as again, sort of continuing with this theme. Any candidates? We have some upside guys now who we could talk about, like William Whitelaw.
Yes.
Timur
Any-
Mukhanov.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any other names we can throw in here?
Nate Danielson, Gavin Brindley,
Yeah.
just does everything pretty well. I don't know. I think he's going to be a first rounder. Whether or not it'll be justifiable, but I do think he should be in the conversation to be in the mid 20s.
I really like Danielson. He
Really?
he rolled over Height and Zemer in the game that he came to town, and like just so much passing skill and like shooting skill I didn't think he had, and it's just like again, he's probably like, you know, a middle of the lineup type guy, but like he's gonna be so valuable, I feel, in the NHL.
Yeah, I caught a good game of his the other day where he was like making like one touch look off slap passes to his teammates to open nets and like breaking down and kicking down the front door, you know, actually like trying to make plays in transition rather than just getting pushed outside and firing pucks on net. The environment is not ideal. And it's not just one of these things like, oh, you know, what happens if you take him out of the environment? I mean, he's been there for 3 years. He's going to be there for 4 years. It's going to have an impact on his trajectory. But he's got tools, and you hope that the flashes of when he's more aggressive with the puck are what he can actually become. I think I'd have the NCAA guys over him, especially at least Brindley. But as like a very late, as like the 32nd spot or 30th or whatever, I'm cool with that. Anyone from Europe, Lassi, who is in this discussion for our last 10 or 11 or 9 spots?
Yep, Halttunen, I would think, is in the mix.
You like him more than Dauer Nilsson?
I think I like Dauer Nilsson more, to be honest, at this point.
Yeah, he's super smart, like one of the smartest players in the draft. It's just the skating that's really not as good as in a lucky sense.
Runs in the family.
Probably a 4 on our scale. I know Jimmy likes him though. He said in the 20s somewhere.
Lindstein. Mm-hmm. He liked Lindstein in the 20s as well.
I've seen Mukhanov too. I think Dylan should talk about him.
I love him. He's been awesome this year. He's found a spot. I mean, it's like solidly in the VHL lineup. They just brought in another. They signed someone and then they cut someone so he could stay on the team. So that's kind of telling of how much they value him there. He is just a really hardworking player. He's like his first VHL game. He was like, you could clearly tell he was really working to keep a spot on the team. Just shows up all over the ice. He's so quick. He's so creative as well. It's mostly the offense that stands out, but he chips in defensively as well. He's just an incredible playmaker. He chooses his spots really well. He's very deceptive. He's hard to control. He's so small and shifty. He's like, everyone's just kind of chasing him around, and he overhandles a lot. It seems to be an issue with the system. It's kind of like with Gleb Trikazov last year, where it's just kind of trying to do a lot by himself. He's kind of gotten better with that as the year's gone on, especially now. And then with the shooting chances, he's getting a lot of them, like off the rush. He's moving around in the offensive zone. He just slips away and he just can't finish. So that's kind of like the main thing that's holding him back is just there's no finishing ability from him, but the offensive upside is definitely there. Even if he is just a playmaker moving forward, you can kind of fall back on the motor and just being able to be a disruptor all over the ice.
Yeah, I watched him a bit and I fully expected to not like him because his profile is not great. He's a total unknown. He doesn't really score, but yeah, he has everything you said. Like he's very quick and he works hard, and playmaking is really advanced too for a player who's not scoring that much. Maybe we could bring him down a bit, like not put him at this spot because his profile is not like, it doesn't suggest that he's going to make the NHL, but yeah, he should be in the first round somewhere.
All right. And so do we put Whitelaw then at 24th?
Do we like Whitelaw?
I mean, the skill is unbelievable.
Yeah.
One of the best shots in the draft, some of the best hands in the draft. When he's actually looking to be a playmaker, he clearly has a ton of passing skill, the skating, the physical skills. Like he takes huge runs at guys. He wins body positioning. He knows the next play after winning a battle. Like he just plays a very shoot from the perimeter and do anything I can to not create offense for my teammates style of hockey.
That's an issue.
Gotta get
But we
that-
have other players like him ahead on the board. So
Yeah, it's kind of my argument here.
I was gonna say those are coachable traits anyways, right? Like you get a good coach, they should be able to leverage those tools and that skill into, hey, you have other players on the ice. They could probably help with this.
and from watching players over the years, I think playmaking is one of the things that usually improve the most. So we can be confident with him, I think.
All right. And then who should we put Brindley down now?
Yeah, GD really likes him. So he's just a big motor. That's how you describe him. All over the ice, all the time.
All right. And then Mukhanov, Dower Nielsen, Stenberg, Wilson, Joey Willis, Nate Danielson, Matthew Wood, Charlie Stramel, Kasper Halttunen. Any strong support for any of those players or anyone else that I didn't mention?
Mukhanov.
Alexander Rykov.
Oh yeah, he's good too.
Yeah, my last two viewings have been awesome. I was watching him last year, and I was like, this is just kind of Svechkov 2.0, and that's like my kind of player. He's just for being so young, just so responsible, and now he's in the VHL, and the main thing was his hands, but now he's so confident. He's actually taking guys on. He's not just shying away from everything, and his production has been like second best for draft eligible in the VHL, just behind Michkov and then tied with Nichushkin. So I mean, I think he's making a strong case to be a first rounder. I really liked him all year. In the last couple of games I've seen him been like definitely first rounder for me.
On my ranking, I have them like Dower Nielsen, Mukhanov, and then Rykov. But we could put players between Mukhanov and Rykov. I think there's a bit of separation between those two players. Not a lot.
Yeah,
but...
I agree with that. I have Rykov like right at the end of the first. So
have we said Matthew Wood too? Is he? I think he should be in the conversation for the tail end of this.
Yeah, let's put him in there at 28.
Yeah. And Danielson too.
All right. Halttunen at 30, Rykov at 31, because you said there was some distance in there. And then for our last spot.
Yeah,
Caden
Stramel, Caden Price.
No.
Charlie Stramel, I mean, at 33.
David, you were telling me that Otto Stenberg is amazing.
I really like his hands, but I don't know what's happening. He just can't score. And it's like part of an issue with using his teammates at the right time, shooting ability. He has a lot of skills, but not much offense. He's a B prospect for sure, but we're discussing Bs. But I think he should be outside of the top 32, maybe at like 34 or 35.
Like, I really like Joey Willis. This is basically Owen Beck light. Less good at faceoffs, and tools are maybe just average, but I mean, this is basically just Owen Beck this year.
He's really not
he's
scoring.
Never going to play at the World
I
Juniors.
know he's really not scoring, but I mean, he's been pushed down the lineup in Saginaw, and I mean, we'll see if that will end up translating into points because now Hate's there, but I mean, I really like him, but I also really like Denver Berkey too. I mean, I think these are guys that were probably second rounders.
Okay, Willis at 32 then. He's short and is like 0.6 points per game.
Yeah, bold.
I'm sorry.
He is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him. It's
basically the Owen Beck conundrum of last year. It's like he was so good but wasn't scoring.
But he's really not scoring. Like there's
I know.
difference.
Do you like Denver Barkey more though?
I have Willis ahead of Barkey, but they're pretty close.
Yeah.
He's more skilled than Barkey. And I'm coming from I'm a big Barkey guy.
Less translatable, more skilled.
Less translatable?
No.
We'll see. You don't think so?
Well, I mean, the defensive game is like the hallmark right now,
Yeah,
but he's also really
Offensively.
flashes the offense. So the really good playmaking ability. He and Michael Misa looked ridiculous together in October. So
it's just our first board. Like it doesn't matter too much anyway.
All right, let's get a few honorable mentions in. Nadeau, Stenberg, Stramel, Price, Melendic,
Barkey.
Dragicevic, Strathman, Barkey.
But
Pinelli?
Pinelli, and I have
And
Brustovic.
Butt is a good choice.
yeah,
Is everyone fine with the board? Any big mistake here?
Are we cool with Shallow over Barlow? Can we keep? I guess we can't really drop Shallow more. Cagnoni over Height, is that a fine one?
I don't think
know.
so. Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
height over him.
I think I'm that way too.
You got him in the teens, and now I feel good too.
I think that's a perfect place for height.
Simashev under Perron, or do we want to really plant our flag and have a
No,
guy
like
who's just
he
allergic
needs
to points?
at least a
top 10?
second point in the season to earn that spot.